Hello, my sweet friends, and welcome to Kinda Shabby. My name is Becky, and I am so glad you stopped by. Now, those of you who are regular viewers of my channel, you know that I have not had a new video in over a month now. Things have been a little bit nutty around the Shabby household because this is Daisy. This is our sweet little Daisy May, and she is an Australian Shepherd. And currently, right now, as of this recording, she is 16 weeks old, and she is just so much sweet fun. She actually sees her toys in the floor over there and wants to get to them. So we're going to let her play with her toys, and we're going to get some projects started. Yes. So this tired old birdhouse has been on my back patio in full sun, all faded out and grungy, and it is time for it to have a shabby chic makeover. So the first thing I'm going to do is just take some of these Lysol wipes and just really give it a good cleaning. So now that the birdhouse is all clean and dry, I'm going to come back with a couple of coats of the Waverly Chalk Paint in the color Plaster. And I don't want this anymore. I'm not going to be hanging it. So I'm just going to take some snips and snip that off and remove that chain. And we're just going to put a couple of coats on here to cover this up. I'm not worried too much about full coverage on the roof portion because we've got some really cute techniques we're going to do to cover all of that up. So this is the Iron Orchid Designs Pinterest page, and that is the inspiration for my birdhouse. I just love that. So we're going to be using some of my Iron Orchid Designs molds, and this one is the Birdsong mold, and also some air dry clay to create some items that we're going to apply to our little birdhouse once it has completed drying. Before I make my clay appliques, I want to add some interest to these flat surfaces, and I will be using the Iron Orchid Designs stamp in Kindest Regards, and I'll also be using the Iron Orchid Designs stamp in Vintage Textures, and also using the Iron Orchid Designs ink in black. And I'm just going to lightly blot my ink on my stamp, place it on that flat surface, and just kind of gently rub my hands over it. I don't want too much ink on there. I just want a nice faint image of some distressing. And there we go. That literally looks like we have done a chippy paint technique, and all we did was use our ink and our stamp. Isn't that just gorgeous? And I'm going to use that same technique to do the other side as well. And there's our other side. That is just fantastic. I'm just going to go and randomly add some texture. And then while our ink is drying, we'll go ahead and make our clay molds. You want to take some cornstarch and just lightly dust whichever of those elements you plan to use, because that helps your clay to release more easily from the mold. And I am using the DAS clay, or DOS, however you pronounce that, and I get this off of Amazon, and I really like using it. I've had good results with that. So I'm going to take just a little bit of that and warm it up and work it in my hands until it becomes really, really soft and pliable. Kind of flatten it out with my palms. And as I press my clay out with my palms, I try and make it the shape of whatever element I'm planning on putting the clay into. You press your clay into your mold, and then remove the excess clay from around the design. And I also like to use some type of scraper to flatten the back and remove the rest of that excess clay. And then I kind of like to just take and work the clay out of the mold a little bit before I lay it down. So then I just take it and lay it down. And then I can walk that clay right on out of the mold. And they just turn out so beautiful. So I'm going to make a few more of my little birds here, and I'm going to follow that same process. And then once I let them set up for a little bit, we'll start gluing them onto our little birdhouse, and that is going to just be so cute. So I like to place mine on a little drying rack. That way it gets air all up underneath it as well. And I find that that helps the clay to avoid so much cracking. I'm also using my classic Elements mold, and I'm going to make some of this little beaded detail here to accent portions of our little birdhouse. And then once I'm finished with all of my clay molds, we'll come back in and get our Kindest Regards stamp added to the roof. And I'm going to add ink to the middle section, just lightly dabbing that on. And I'm going to center that up. I just want a faint background of a little bit of script font. Just a little hint there. That's so pretty. Add a little more ink. And we're going to do the same thing to the other side. That just gives such a nice little texture to the little roof of our birdhouse here. I think that is really, really cute. Well, these have set up for a few minutes, and now we're going to go ahead and get some of our little clay appliques applied to our birdhouse. So I'm going to be using my Tite Bond wood glue. I'm going to take our beaded trim, and I've pulled it in a couple of different pieces because I want to put it around the circle here on our birdhouse. So I'm just going to put a little bit on my mat here, apply this to the back, just a thin little coat. And this is still wet enough that I can move that into whatever shape I need it to be in, but it's dry enough that I can apply some pressure, but I'm not going to distort that image on the clay. That's really cute. I love that. I'm going to also glue those to the little eaves. How cute is that gonna be? I'm gonna add another piece to the other side as well. And then I'm going to take another brush and just kind of get off the excess glue. The only downside is it does not dry clear. But you can see how that looks so far. That is just adorable. So I'm going to go ahead and glue down those remaining pieces, and then we'll come back and start putting our birds on. I added a row along the top there too. That is just so super cute. I just love that. So I'm going to set that aside and let that dry for a little bit. And then I'm going to add one of our birds. I think I want this one here. I'm going to add that there to our drawer. And it's hard to tell, it's kind of dry around the outside, but you can see it's still wet on the inside. And again, that way I can apply a little bit of pressure when I am molding these things to my surface without getting rid of all the details on the front. See exactly where I want that. And then I'm just going to take my time and go around and make sure all of these edges are securely placed onto my little drawer here. Place that in there. Oh my gosh, I love it. I think I want this little guy right here, like that. Hold on. Daisy Mae just got into the garbage. All right, had to set the garbage can up here because Daisy's too curious about what I'm putting in the garbage can. And again, we're just going to gently press down and make sure all of those edges are secure. I just love that. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh my goodness. So, so pretty. So I'm gonna put this one here. I'm gonna have to make another one to go here. And then our large one, I'm going to put that on the back. That's going to be just gorgeous. Now I'm going to let this glue set up for a little bit, and then we'll come back and get some waxes applied to these to bring out all those gorgeous details. So I've let everything dry overnight. I did go back and make another little bird here, and I just love how this is all turning out so far. I just think it looks so pretty. Now if I wanted to put this back outside, I would just brush on several coats of a polyacrylic. But since I'm going to be using this inside, I've got a couple of more steps that we're going to do to finish this off. It wouldn't be shabby chic if we didn't have some lace, and I think adding some lace there at the end is just going to finish that off nicely. And I'm just using my regular hot glue gun here, and I'm just going to glue it in small sections all the way down. And when I glue this, I want to make sure that the scalloped edge is actually hanging over the end of the little roof here. Just add a few more dots of glue in there. I like that. I think that is really, really cute. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the other side in the same fashion, and then we'll come back and start getting our waxes applied. I am coming back over the entire painted surface with some clear wax, and I am using Annie Sloan clear wax, but whatever wax you have on hand will be just fine. And I just dip my brush in and get a little bit on there. Work it into my bristles, and then I just start in a swirling motion, adding the wax, including our little clay molds as well. And I'll just be covering everything with the wax. And now I'm coming back with just a piece of a paper towel, and I'm going to blot and rub off the excess of that wax. And if you feel any area that feels a little tacky, that means you just have too much wax and you just need to keep wiping. And now I'm coming in with some black wax. And again, this is Annie Sloan, but whatever black wax you want to use will be just fine. You could also use a dark brown paste wax, the antiquing wax. That would be a pretty option. Or there are plenty of other colored waxes that you can use. This one is gorgeous. This is a rose gold wax. And you could also make your own wax by just mixing some clear wax in with whatever color paint that you want. And that way you can create whatever color suits your fancy. So I'm using a small, stiff bristled brush, just getting a little bit of that wax on there and working it into the bristles. And I'm going to work that into all of those details. And it looks a little messy when you're first applying your wax. And then when we come back with a piece of paper towel and we start wiping that back, that wax settles into all of those details and it just looks so gorgeous. And you just keep wiping until you remove as much of that as you would like. You could also use a baby wipe to wipe off a lot of that excess. So then you just have that settled into those details, and I think that is just gorgeous. I love working with these waxes like this. And the reason why you want to coat it with your clear wax first is so that the clay doesn't absorb all of that wax directly, and then you can't wipe it back. So you take off the excess there with your paper towel, and then you come back and wipe off the excess with that baby wipe. And that just brings all of those details out. I just love that. So now I'm going to go ahead and apply and remove the wax to all of my little birds here. So now that I have all of my little birds done, I just think that looks fantastic. And now I'm going to come back and do that same technique to my beaded trim. We can just go in and rub all of that all over our little beaded trim here. And then do the same thing and take a piece of paper towel and blot off. And then you come back in with your wet wipe and you just keep wiping that away until you get the look that you want. And then any areas around the outside edges where it's smudged, I can just take a little bit of the clear wax on a paper towel and go all around those edges, and that just cleans up those smudges. Isn't that gorgeous? So again, I'm just going to go and follow that same process and apply my dark wax on all of my little clay beaded trim, and then wipe it back until I get the look that I want. And there we go. I just absolutely love this. And you wouldn't have to do any of the wax treatments on this. You could just leave it as is, but I like the way that the wax makes it look so aged and vintage looking. Well, now all I need to do is get this styled up and show you how cute this week's project turned out. Thank you so much for joining me today. It has been my pleasure to craft with you. Please subscribe for more kind of shabby but always chic crafty inspirations. And until next time, my sweet friends, be blessed.